to clean energy scale-up and development in the Gambia. The forum, that is jointly funded by the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and PIRA, is aimed at achieving energy policy, including legal and regulatory frameworks with the involvement of stakeholders from the renewable energy sector to converse and develop strategies to expand renewable energy for electricity production in the Gambia. The emergence of cheap renewable energy serves as a subsidiary to conventional energy to meet the growing demand of energy supply. Sustainable energy supply remains a top priority in the government's development agenda, and therefore the need to support such initiative is crucial for the attainment of the country's Vision 2020 development blueprint.
Gambia, under the leadership of His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh, remains committed to national electrification and sustainable energy supply, and therefore continues to give the energy sector top priority in its development agenda. Our focus is not only on implementing projects and programs to this end, but also developing the human capital and institutional competence required. To achieve this, the Gambia government continues to take a consultative approach in formulating the best policies that will enable us achieve the goals set out in Vision 2020.
Sales are optimistic of meeting their targets in the near future. Dudu Jain, Chairman PIRA, outlines the importance of viable renewable energy and how it can save the government from spending millions.
This gathering confirms that the Gambia needs to develop and successfully promote commercially viable renewable energy projects to reduce the gap between supply and demand. The use of local renewable energy resources such as solar and wind energy would not only supplement current supply but also save the country millions in hard-earned foreign exchange.
Today's forum, according to the U.S. ambassador, is a clear manifestation of the country's commitment to the harnessing of clean energy supply.
That is what brings us here today, to hold a national-level policy discussion on renewable energy regulation. The Gambia's support for clean energy and the participatory nature of this national dialogue are strong signs of the country's commitment to advancing clean energy and the potential for real progress on this front.
Participants attending the forum spoke of the critical role renewable energy is expected to play in the development of the continent. For GRTS News, I am Fatou Jassi.
That program was held before the President dissolved his cabinet. Meanwhile, the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority has organized a day's interface with journalists on the ongoing SIM registration exercise. The synergy that saw the participation of print and broadcast journalists was held to share the fundamental instruments involved in the 6-month registration process. Baukar Kamara reports.
Is to empower you, and educate you about the project. We are going to educate you. Once you are educated, you're informed. Once you are informed, then as communicators, you will be able to communicate to the general population.
They acted as voices newly inducted to the national program of SIM card registration upon a felt need induced by the Public Utilities Regulatory Body, PIRA.
Journalists and also DJs from the radio stations are our most trusted source of information in the country, and PURA regards the media society as one of our strongest stakeholders, simply because they can get the message across on our behalf. But in doing so, we want to make sure that the right message is being taken across.
We want these people to come and understand on their own as to what SIM card registration is all about.
The status quo remains the same for even some members of the media fraternity, whose limited knowledge about the ongoing SIM card registration was less appreciated by their general audience. A more reason for the day's synergy.
I've learned a lot today. I'm from Pura here, concerning about this SIM card registration. All I want to tell my fellows or mommies and daddies out there, let them all go and register their SIM card.
What has been your in-depth knowledge that has been gathered through this forum?
Well, first of all, I must have to say it's a very fine initiative because it's high time. It's about time anyway. All of us register our SIM cards.
Participants drawn from the print and electronic media further believe that their newly inducted skills will help PURA register 95% coverage come June 15 when the SIM card registration is set to come an end. Babukar Kamara, GRTS.
You can also follow that story and other GRTS programs live on our website at www.grts.ca. There you can also monitor GRTS Radio Live. We'll be back with more stories after the break.
Wallahi inspector wagan suma dimbalewul rek ma tak man bandi ak ray gatu nit ñi ak ñi nga xam dañu jaay trop maak ñoom ñooy toog nii duma bandi nag di xam nga ne ñun ñaar ku wàcce sa morom rek mbir mi yàqu xaaral ma call ministre non ana ministre moom laa soxla
woo nga ministre bi
waaw waaye nag
woo nga ministre bi kañ ma mën a jàppale
ma de ministre rek la xale
ñu bon ñu ñëwul ñu ngi fi
kii lu mu amul si biir police bi fii rek waaw jox ma 100,000 ma fekk seen gémmiñ
lu bari
waaw ba ma ne arrest ko nga yóbbu loolu rek la juróom fukki at ak ñaar tey ko def boy inspector.
Welcome back. Angry protesters have continued their demonstrations in Cairo in the wake of violent clashes between rival fans in Port Said. Demonstrators are calling for the military council to step down and the disbanding of the Fed Interior Police Force. Authorities say at least 12 people died since the outbreak of violence between fans loyal to a Masri club and Al Ahli. We have details in this report.
Demonstrators in Cairo were still furious after a long night of rioting, following the tragedy in the stadium in Port Said, where at least 70 fans were killed as police looked on. In the capital, Cairo, crowds broke down walls and barbed wire barriers to reach the heavily guarded Interior Ministry.
They fired tear gas and then they said we were attacking them. The protests were peaceful. Our friends died yesterday, others were wounded. We're demanding a swifter purge of the police authorities.
The solution to this unrest is for the military council to step down and hand authority over to civilians, and for a fair trial for those who have committed crimes. Many anti-government activists and hardcore football fans known as ultras blame the country's military leadership for either conspiring to foment the Port Said violence or negligently allowing it to occur. Some suspect the government had arranged the escalating chaos in an attempt to convince citizens of the need to maintain harsh emergency laws. We want our martyrs to be recognized as such, but we don't want any more bloodshed. The situation remains explosive. At least 12 people have died since the clashes began on Thursday after the football match. Health Ministry officials said more than 2,500 people had been injured, mostly by very powerful tear gas used against rioters. Police were continuing to fire tear gas and birdshot pellets as well. Some demonstrators tried to intervene between hardcore protesters and police. There were protests and deaths reported in Suez and Alexandria as well.
Scores of people converged on a Dhaka neighborhood near the offices of the president to pray for the victims of the recent spate of violence. The prayer session was organized by the M23 movement, an opposition group opposed to the government of President Wade. Let's look at this report for more.
Up to 1,000 people took part in a day of prayer in Dakar on Friday. The prayer was called by the opposition movement M23. It was a tribute to those who lost their lives in the recent protests over the decision by Senegal's Constitutional Council to allow President Abdoulaye Wade to stand for a third term. We are praying for the stability of this country. We are praying for peace. We are praying so that God hears us and drives out the demons that are keeping this man in power at the cost of Senegalese blood. No incidents were reported during the prayer, which was held outside the Blanchot Mosque, not far from the president's office. The government deployed scores of riot police